All right. Genesis chapter 19, starting in verse 1. There came two angels to Sodom at evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. He said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night. Wash your feet, and you shall rise up early and go on your way. And they said, No, but we will abide in the streets all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brother, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have two daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadows of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And then they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will need be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides sons-in-laws, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxed great before the face of Yahweh, and Yahweh has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for Yahweh will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-laws. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, and saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy two daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his two daughters, Yahweh being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, and set him without the city. How in the world did Lot, a righteous man, wind up in such a situation? Lingering in Sodom, having to be dragged out of the city by Yahweh. Lot did not get to where he was overnight. He traveled down a gradual slope over a number of years, making a number of wrong choices and very costly, terrible decisions. Lot was not initially guilty of deliberate disobedience, but the choices that he made led to the ruination of his home. You know, choices have consequences. How you choose determines the course of your life and your character. As we consider Lot's decisions, ask yourself, am I guilty of making similar mistakes? He made what the world would call a wise business decision. In Genesis 13, verse 1, Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and gold, and he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and your herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest to Zoar. The Bible tells us that the valley was well watered or completely irrigated. Excavations of the area gives evidence that barley and wheat and grapes and figs and lentils, flax, chickpeas, broad beans, dates, and olives were grown in the valley. Genesis 13:11, Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves, the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan. Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. Lot wanted the best in life. From a natural point of view, if we are honest, we can't blame Lot. Don't we want the best? Isn't that what we are looking for? The best working conditions for the best salary, the best car for the money we have to spend, the best home we can afford, in a community with good schools and services. In itself, wanting good things in life is not wrong. There were three major mistakes that Lot made in this decision. He based his decision on appearances, on the material. Now, appearances can be deceiving. Yeshua Messiah warned in John 7, verse 24, Do not judge according to appearance. In 1 John 2:16, For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, and the desires of the eyes, and pride and possessions, is not from Father, but is from the world. So don't trust appearances. Remember, Satan is a great deceiver. And 2 Corinthians 11:14 tells us, Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Satan is a pro at putting window dressings on evil to make it look good. A crystal clear glass of spring water with a few drops of cyanide looks innocent, but is deadly. Sadly, Lot is going to find out the reality of James chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. But each one is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desires. Then when desire conceives, it gives birth to sin. And when sin is full grown, it gives birth to death. Lot looked for a city built by human hands, while Abraham looked for a city whose builder and maker was Yahweh. He failed to realize that material things are only temporary, and they only satisfy temporary. Contrast Lot's choice with Moses, as recorded in Hebrews 11, verse 24 to 26. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yahweh than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Messiah greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. You may think that you are different from Lot, but if you have put your job ahead of your family's spiritual life, if you have put your social advancement ahead of a proper association with Yahweh's people, if you have let your choice of a home keep you from a congregation in which you can grow in faith and worship, you have moved from the highlands to the plains of the Jordan. We could add other indicators to this list. If you are focusing on your life on externals and not on your spiritual life, you are focusing on the wrong issues. If your focusing is on attaining status rather than cultivating character, you are focusing on the wrong issues. If you are more concerned with what something costs monetary instead of what is cost spiritually, you are focusing on the wrong issues. If you are focusing on what will be the most enjoyable instead of what is the most beneficial, you are focusing on the wrong issues. The third and biggest mistake was that Lot failed to ask Yahweh. There's no mention of that Lot ever sought the face of Yahweh in making his decision. Seeking Yahweh's advice is a matter of asking. In James 1 verse 5, if any of you lacks wisdom, ask of Yahweh, who will give all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. Lot failed to seek Yahweh's advice, and in chapter 19 we see him reluctantly to follow Yahweh's advice when it is given to him. Get out of the city! And he lingered. He surrounded himself with worldly influences. In Genesis 13, 11 and 12, so Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Lot started off heading in that general direction of the cities of the plain. He didn't immediately move into the city. He waited. He wanted the conveniences of the world, but he was going to remain on the outside. It was kind of there's a separation. It was kind of a separation, which says once our direction is set, our destination is also determined. For it is now only a matter of time. Some decisions may not even seem significant, but they set a particular course for our lives. The decisions may not seem very important, but its final outcome can be terrifying and tragic. In 2 Corinthians 6, verse 17, come out from among and be separate, says Yahweh. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you. Believers who like to live on the outskirts of the world soon find themselves drawn by its allurements. As time passes, believers become comfortable with the worldliness and its temporary rewards. The longer worldliness has had control of their hearts, the less likely believers are to pursue godliness. If you place a frog in boiling water, it will immediately jump out. But if you place it in cold water and slowly increase the heat, the frog will acclimate itself to the increase in temperatures, and it is lulled to its death. 1 Corinthians 5, verse 6. Your glorying is not good. Know you not that a little leaven leavens the whole lump? So Lot trusted the world for his safety net. Genesis 19, verse 1. There came two angels to Sodom at evening. Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. He said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and I will wash your feet, and you shall rise up early and go on your way. Keep that in mind. He's going to wash their feet. And they said, no, but we will abide in the street at night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him and entered into his house. And what did he do? He made him a feast and did bake unleavened bread. That was the time during the unleavened bread. Lot was still keeping it. Lot has gradually moved from the fields into the city of Sodom. Somewhere between 14 to 24 years before, we find Lot sitting in the gate of Sodom. Genesis 14 tells us that the king of Elam and his allies fought against the kings of the cities of the valleys of Siddim and took Lot and his family captive along with their townspeople. Lot sat as the gatekeeper. Many suppose that this was an indication that Lot was the equivalent to a city councilman. Whether he was there in an official capacity or was just part of the affairs and comments that were discussed and transacted, we don't know. The point is that he is fully integrated into the city. Throughout a place, he felt safe and secure there. Isaiah 31, verse 1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek Yahweh. Psalm 60, verse 11. Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. Proverbs 21, verse 31. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of Yahweh. Where are you going to get your safety? Safety is of Yahweh. So Lot instilled the wrong values into his family. In Genesis 19, verse 4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. They called unto Lot and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door to them and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out to you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. Only to these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. He's been in this city for so long, he was willing to offer up his daughters to these people, knowing full well what would happen. Lot sought to appease the men of Sodom so that the hospitality of his house would not be damaged. But he makes the wrong choice in offering his own daughters, and Yahweh's messengers overruled him. In living in a compromised life, Lot sent mixed messages to his family. He lost all of his influence in his sons-in-laws. His wife, in rebellion and pride, disobeys Yahweh and is destroyed. His daughters gets Lot drunk and has ancestral relations with him. You can see how this city affected his family. Lot totally, by his choices, failed to lead his family or to instill in them any moral values. In Proverbs 11, verse 29, He that troubles his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. Whoever troubles his own household will inherit the wind. Proverbs 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. There was a research years ago by the Barna Research Group And they asked the church that the group projects say that the church and the Bible do not influence how they parent their children. Only 33% of parents surveyed said their church or faith was been a dominant influence in the way they parent. And only half of the parents mentioned anything related to faith, including the Bible, church, or religion, as a significant influencer on how they raise their children. It's worse now. He ignored Yahweh's work in his heart. In 2 Peter 2, verse 6, and turning to the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemning them with an overthrow, making them an example unto those that should live ungodly, and delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them, and seeing and hearing, vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. According to Peter, even after years of exposure to the wickedness of the people of Sodom, Lot's conscience saw the sin, and it pained him by what he witnessed. Vexed his righteous soul, felt his righteous soul tormented. Does the bold face of sin, which is ravaging and destroying the very fabric and character and integrity of America, still shock you? Or do you no longer even blush when you see and hear the sensual conduct of unprincipled men on the television and in the movies, and even PG-rated movies? We as the bride of Messiah, are in a dire state when we reach this low point. We need to recall the truth of our blessed hope. Are we making ourselves ready for the return of our bridegroom? Ignoring this burning within his soul for righteousness, Yahweh had to force him to come out of Sodom. Is he going to force us to come out of Sodom? Genesis 19:16. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, Yahweh being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. He who chooses the beginning of a road chooses the place it leads to. The choices we make will determine the path we travel and our destiny. The choices we make determine the enjoyment we experience in living. The choices we make will determine the influence we have on others. The choices we make will determine what kind of walk we will have with Yahweh. How will you choose? I hope Yahweh blesses you.